Welcome back to the CBA 400 True Crime Podcast. This is your host, Greta, and today we'll be covering the Johnson&Johnson Tylenol murder scandal. So let's jump right in.
This product may be contaminated with cyanide.
Cyanide happens to be a drug that can cause sudden death.
Paula was murdered. She was just murdered.
This could go on for quite a while, or it could resolve itself very quickly.
Johnson&Johnson is an American multinational corporation providing an array of pharmaceuticals, medical devices, and consumer good products. Now, back in November 2021, the company announced that it would be splitting into two publicly traded companies. This corporation is managed by a board of directors and executives in a decentralized fashion that allows for both autonomy and faster decision-making. Here I have provided the internal documents, including filings with the Secretary of State, bylaws, and a strict code of conduct that they claim to adhere to. The company was founded in 1886 in New Brunswick, New Jersey, by Robert Wood Johnson, James Wood Johnson, and Edward Mead Johnson, all pictured above. Although the company originally specialized in surgical dressings, it quickly expanded to include products like bandages, sutures, and cotton products, eventually establishing themselves as a household name by the early 1900s when they branched off into the manufacturing of baby powders, soaps, and shampoos. Now, I'm sure you're all wondering how a company with so much promise managed to find themselves entangled in a web of murder and hysteria. Well, it all hit the papers in 1982 when 7 local Chicago residents reportedly dropped dead after ingesting pills from seemingly innocent bottles of Johnson&Johnson's extra-strength Tylenol. Now, when tested, the Tylenol pills had been found to be laced with cyanide, something the media was quick to pin on J&J, sending the local residents of Chicago into a whipped-up frenzy. It was only later confirmed that an outside party had tampered with the product after it had been placed on the shelves. Johnson&Johnson rushed to get ahead of the panic by issuing a public recall of all their extra-strength Tylenol, halting all advertisements of the product. The outcomes of this case had significant impact in the eyes of the law, with Congress passing the Tylenol bill in 1983, making tampering with consumer products in an attempt to harm the users a federal offense. The unnamed assailant was charged with several crimes, including but not limited to murder, attempted murder, and product tampering. Although it was proven in court that Johnson&Johnson could not be held liable for the grave error, they still acted swiftly in an attempt to elude any charges of negligence. By recalling over 31 million bottles of the product from store shelves, the company attempted to stay true to their ethical standards as outlined in their code of conduct. The commitment to transparency led to the establishment of a crisis hotline for customers in a PR attempt to regain lost trust. This travesty had a lasting impact on not only the unlucky souls who had naively purchased the Tylenol, but also their loved ones, and it left the company with a sour reputation to clean up. Although there was no outright breach of the implied duty of integrity, the biggest impact of the case by far was on the culture surrounding the sale of over-the-counter pharmaceutical products, prompting changes to the design of packaging as many other companies began to follow suit shortly thereafter. So I'm sure you are still left with some questions, like what became of J&J? Although the company narrowly escaped any civil liability, they took a large financial hit of more than $100 million in expenses surrounding the recall of the 31 million bottles, including disposables of the tainted capsules, refunds, and replacements and shipping costs. This was in addition to the communication costs, as the product was marred with a dangerous reputation in the public eye. Their anesthetic market shares dropped a whopping 7% as a result of this. And in regards to the most important question of who was going to take the fall, well, 3 suspects were apprehended, with the case being regarded as an act of domestic terrorism. Detectives whittled it down to one man via fingerprinting, arresting James William Lewis, a resident of New York, the Tylenol killer. He had confessed to writing a letter to the company, taking responsibility for the murders in a blackmailing attempt, requesting the company hand over $1 million to stop the killings. It was only during court proceedings that he later reneged on his involvement with the actual tampering, only copying to the letter, and as a result was not convicted for the homicides due to a tangible lack of evidence. He was convicted for the lesser crime of extortion, landing him a 10-year sentence. Although he remains a number 1 suspect to this day, this cold case is still open 4 years later. Despite the horrors, the silver lining of the case came from Chairman James Burke, who championed a small team to save the product and protect the public from further harm. The company assisted police in the investigation, handing over lists of disgruntled employees and unhappy customers. They also established the 1-800 hotline and provided the victims' families with financial assistance and counseling. Many retailers and consumers were issued coupons and free product replacements following the national withdrawal of this product. And what solution did Burke and his team land on, you may ask? In addition to changing the formulation of their capsules into solid tablets and implementing inspection procedures, J&J developed the first ever triple-sealed packaging to prevent anyone from tampering with their products ever again. A seal that is still seen to this day on practically all supplements and over-the-counter pharmaceuticals, revolutionizing the industry. This has resulted in the company being recognized as the standard of ethics in relation to handling a crisis, through the rebuilding of the company's standards and a creation of public affairs program. J&J has managed to recover from all market shares lost going on to become one of the most trusted over-the-counter drug producers in the country today. The FDA followed suit shortly thereafter in 1989, upholding strict requirements for tamper-proof medications for all drug manufacturers in the industry. Thanks for watching, and be sure to tune in for our next episode.